Welcome. You're listening to My Magical Horse, the podcast, where we are getting curious about animal communication. I am your host, Jordan Banks, and if you are desiring a more magical connection with your own horse, you are in the right place. Join us as we rediscover our sense of wonder, experience the joy, and feel the magic that horses can and do bring to our lives each and every day. We are so excited to have you here. Thank you for spending your time with us. Now let's get started. Welcome back to My Magical Horse, the podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to Elsie Kenna of Channeled Pet Poetry by Elsie. Welcome, Elsie. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I have my cat sitting on my lap and we're ready to talk.
Awesome. Yeah, I am so excited to talk to you, especially because I did just have you do three poems of our past beloved dogs that we haven't done it yet, but we're gonna do a special memorial ceremony for them. And I don't know, when I learned about your poetry, I thought, oh my gosh, I should have you do a poems for the dogs. So we will get into that a little bit later, but as I was just chatting with you a little bit before, the whole concept of this podcast is about animal communication and bringing people's awareness to animal communication, regardless of what stage they are in their journey of believing in it or not believing in it. And I just kind of wanted to dive right into your own journey with animal communication and how that started. Like, have you always felt like you could communicate with animals, or is that something that you learned you could do later? And if you want to just maybe tell me a little bit about the story of what got you to where you are today, I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, for sure. I think I, as a child, was very much one with the animals. Like I was completely obsessed with dogs as a kid. So I was having this huge encyclopedia called The Legacy of the Dog that I would just take notes from into my book. And that was all that I wanted was to get my own dog. And my grandparents had a big dog that I loved taking care of. And whenever my uncle would like drop off his cat, and he would go on vacation, I would create a whole like feeding chart for the cat and love to take care of him. And grew up around horses on the farm and everything. So I think I've always had that like kinship with animals that I didn't really think one way or another about it. It was just like my my best friends were always animals, and that was a huge focus of mine growing up. And I wasn't really exposed to the concept of animal communication, I don't think, until I was later into my teens and at the time riding horses competitively. So I was
Mm.
in a training situation. It was quite like intensive. So I had my horse living with me in Florida, and
Oh.
um, we were there for the winter, and there was another girl in the barn whose horse had this like mystery ailment, and they had had like, I don't know, countless different vets out, and the horse was lame, but it was hard to kind of tell. Like they thought maybe he had back problems or ulcers because he was rearing, and it was a very tall horse. And so at one point they kind of like, felt like they had probably exhausted all of their options. And I remember the mother of the girl, who was around my age, like maybe she was a bit younger than me. She's probably 15 or so. Um,
How old were you at the time?
I was that experience, I was 20. Yeah, I was
Okay.
20. So
Okay.
the girl was probably like 15 or 16. And um the mom who was around, because not all the parents like stayed.
Mm.
Some of them, went back to their own states, or I think my sister was there too, but we were like one of two Canadian people that were there.
And was this like was it a dressage thing? Were you a dressage
Yeah,
rider or
it
okay.
was a dressage thing. Yeah,
Okay. So you
so
were down in Florida for some, was it like a Young Riders thing? Or
it
am
was like a it was for youth riders, all different levels.
Mm.
And yeah, it was called Winter Intensive Training. So it was just kind of like, and I was there as like a staff member because I had done it prior to that.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but it was very much in that traditional like culture of we don't really do things holistically in this setting. Like
Yeah, yeah.
horses are living in stalls and you know, we're relying on like vet medicine only, and maybe like some sports medicine kind of like acupuncture if it benefits the performance, but not from
Mm.
like a holistic kind of more state of being.
So it was
So
a very competitive atmosphere.
yeah, yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. And not, I wouldn't say the most like open-minded or like friendly
Mm.
towards alternative ways of being, or at least you know, maybe not hostile towards it, but kind of like, well, if you want to do that, you can, but you're you're wasting your money kind of thing.
Gotcha. And what year was this? Like how many years ago was this?
This was going to be in 2019.
Okay. Oh, 2019. Okay. All right, keep
Yeah.
going. Sorry. I had to just get a
Yeah,
couple little
no,
details.
for sure. You're lucky because I have a good memory, so I can usually provide the details.
Cool.
Um, anyways, long story short, this mother, I remember her announcing like, we have a call with the animal communicator later today. And I think I remember thinking at the time, like, that is such a long shot, you know? Like, especially because it was gonna be over the phone, and, like, I could kind of understand maybe if someone was there in person or, like, doing a video chat, but kind of like a long distance phone call seemed sort of out of my realm of, like, that makes sense. Um
Like how does this work, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think, you know, with sort of mainstream media, whether it's with like psychics or anybody, like I grew up watching that show on TLC, Long Island Medium. Did you ever watch that show?
No, no.
Oh,
Long
you should
Island,
go and
no.
try and see if you can find an archive video of it somewhere on YouTube.
Okay.
But I loved watching that show, um, because this woman would go to people's houses. Usually she lived in New Jersey, so she had a crazy New Jersey accent and um, you know, just larger than life kind of woman, and she would connect with all these spirits and bring messages to loved ones. And I was innately interested in it, I would
Oh,
say.
interesting. Okay.
Um, I definitely wasn't against it, but I just sort of thought um I don't know if it was the context at the time with this barn and all these people that were there that weren't very open-minded, but I was just sort of like, good luck, Chuck. Like, I think that, you know, probably it might bring something about, it might not. And I
Huh.
can't remember now what sort of became of that session. I don't unfortunately remember the result of it, but they did end up eventually figuring out that the horse had a suspensory issue, and I think it was a bilateral one, so it wasn't like super visibly lame, but
Interesting.
it was painful, obviously, and so the horse was like, I don't want to, you know, do riding lessons every day. So that was pretty much my first exposure, sort of
And were you
out in the
like,
wild.
sorry not to interrupt, but were you involved like when they did the call, were you there when they did it, or was that something they did and then you just found out about it later? Or when you heard
Yeah, I
about it
think I
later?
found out about it before they did it, and then I mean, being curious, I probably tried to like garner some insight as to like, was that worth it? And I think
Yeah.
I kind of remember them seeming excited about it. But
Yeah.
again, I think just psychologically, the concept of like them getting on a phone, I think the way I imagined it was like this person somewhere in a different part of the country was like phoning the horse basically and then relaying the message to the people. And
Yeah.
I thought, I don't know. And my point with bringing up the Long Island Medium, I think, was just like you kind of grow up. seeing these like personalities and then kind of hearing about like that more charlatan kind of like
Mm,
archetype of just like the person who's like, yeah, I do this, like give me a call and pay me $100 and I'll tell you what you want to hear, basically. So
mm,
I think that sort of like faceless element to the um
mm.
animal communication like seemed, well, it would rely on you to believe in it, right? And
Or
so,
and hope that you found somebody that was had integrity, that was really doing what they said they're
yeah,
doing. But
exactly. I
so
think
they
in
came up.
Florida, like not everybody, like I don't know, Florida has a lot of crazy people. That's what we think in Canada anyways.
Okay, that's so funny. Oh yeah, I didn't mention in my introduction that you are from Vancouver Island. Um, so okay, so you found out that they did it. You found out that they basically the communicator said that the horse had a suspensory issue. I'm gonna assume then that the vet confirmed that.
Yeah, well, to be clear, I can't remember if
Mm,
it was the animal communicator that brought up the issue in the
mm,
suspensory. Maybe she said the lower leg was hurting. I have no record of knowing what the
what
animal
the
communicator said. So all I
okay,
know
yeah.
is they eventually found out the issue, and I can't say one way or the other if
It
the
just
animal
was
communicator had a
you're
part in that.
it just sparked your interest in what animal communication is, more or less.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
for sure. And I think
so
it was like I think it's a great moment to look back on in terms of contrast because um it's just funny to think about like the experiences where you're skeptical of something and then to see where you are now and think, "Oh, that's so funny that I was so like skeptical of that because it's such a big part of my life now without really a second thought." Um
right.
So, yeah, I think more than anything, that's what that story represents to me. It's just the
Mhm.
evolution.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm glad that you shared that story because I don't have a story just like that one, but I definitely have my own evolution of not really knowing if I believed in it or not, wanting to believe in it, but kind of like you said, like, yeah, sure, how are they doing this from a distance, you know?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, I always felt really connected to my horses. Like, so I get that part where you're coming from. Like, I always felt like I don't know, I would even like tell boyfriend or whoever, oh, my horse, I would say something like, right, of how I think my horse was feeling or what they were saying. And I remember getting like, oh, you're just projecting that on them.
Right.
Like, so I really even started to doubt myself. Like, maybe I'm just projecting that on them. I don't know. You know what I mean? But now
Yeah.
in retrospect, from all the stuff I've done since and studying animal communication, I realized no, I wasn't. I was really getting those messages from my horses. And I feel like part of my mission too with this podcast is even just to bring that to light so that people understand that they are communicating with their horses, animals, pets, other pets too, whether they realize they're doing it or not. They are
Yes.
doing it in some capacity, and it just kind of depends on maybe your skill set or even your willingness to embrace the messages as to how much you can get, I think.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah. No, I think you're right on with that, honestly. Um, I think people love to kind of like squash down on people for that. Like when you do say like, "Oh, I feel like this from my horse." And I don't know, I think that's just, human conditioning, unfortunately, but um it's so interesting. I think like everybody, it's my belief anyways that everybody has that innate capacity, and I think you really nailed it when you said you're communicating with your animals whether you realize it or not. And I think that can even be broken down on like a super basic level that doesn't have to do anything with spirituality. Like your just the intention that you bring into a room, and when you feel that love in your heart for your animal, like they can feel that and
Hmm.
you can feel it back. And I think um we put so many like mental barriers between that thinking, oh, it has to be complicated, but I think it is really quite simple. And so I love that
You're
you're kind of bringing that message forward of like, this is happening either way.
yeah. And I love what you like just I'm just gonna make another little caveat to my own experience, but like when I actually started to realize that communication was real, um, and actually I had a story. I actually talk about this in my interview with Felicity. Um, but I had a friend who said she could communicate with animals. Well, she actually was kind of afraid to tell me that she could communicate. She was afraid to tell anybody that she could do this because she didn't want people to think that she was weird or something, right? And then my gelding, at one point I had moved him to another barn. It was like a big competition type facility or whatever. And in retrospect, now I know that he was kind of freaking out because he thought that I took him there to sell him.
Okay.
I didn't take him there to sell him, but also I didn't really tell him what I was doing. Like, like I never had a
Yeah.
conversation with him. I just moved him and then he kind of started panicking and he had some behavioral things kind of surfacing. And so this friend of mine at the time, she basically coached me through a ride with him and told me that he was sending her pictures and she was sending him pictures back and trying to tell him that he's safe and that he's not here to be sold and all these things. But there was a really pivotal point where after that experience, she left the barn and I was left with my horse in the cross ties and I was sitting there with him and I was feeling kind of sorry for myself in a way because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, she can see your pictures. She can see your pictures and I can't. And kind of like, wow, this really sucks because my friend can communicate with my horse and I can't. And I was literally like just feeling bad for myself and kind of bummed. I was like this was a really cool thing that just happened, but like shit, man, how come I can't do it? I want to be able to do that too. And I kid you not, she had left the farm. She came back into the barn and she said, I don't know why, but he wants me to come back to tell you that he can see your pictures. He can see what you're thinking. She's what she told me. He can see what you're thinking. And I was like, what? And that was for me, I think, when I started to really believe and embrace it. I was like, holy shit, here I was just feeling bad for myself. Like, woe was me. I can't do this. She can. And he came back or she came back to say, he can see what you're thinking. That's how she worded it. He can see what you're thinking. And I was like, whoa. So at that point forward, I literally shifted how I train horses. Like, I don't like to think of myself as a trainer anyways, but I like to
Yeah.
think of myself more as I don't know, a facilitator, a guide, and trying to help horses shape their behavior and their energy in the way that's gonna, be what we're trying to accomplish. But at that point forward, I started to I started to talk to clients sometimes. Like I would have some clients in particular that maybe had some bad mindset about their horses, like, oh, my horse is just an asshole, or my horse is like, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna use the F word, but like there was some really horrendous things being said about this one particular horse that was in partial training with me, and I taught the owner lessons, and I remember just trying to tell her like you cannot say these things to him, like he understands you. I mean, and they were operating from such a she was operating from such a premises of she wasn't metabolizing the fact that all these horrendous things that she was saying to him, he completely understood her like 1,000%. So anyway, at that point forward, just I've literally incorporated, if your horse doesn't understand, actually just talk to them. Like maybe if you put it into words yourself, you can clarify your own intention and make your wishes clear enough to your horse that they can then answer you in the way that you want them to if they're willing. um
Yeah.
so
I would
anyway,
say
I don't
that.
know, I just wanted to touch on that because I feel like it's such an important concept that, at least for me, previous to opening my eyes up to communication is real, that I didn't really realize how much weight it really carried our
Yeah.
words and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. That's like one hack, honestly, that I love to just lean on because I'm not the most visual person. So like I think when I was first kind of starting out like intentionally trying to learn animal communication, that felt like kind of a big pressure almost, or like oh, I
Mm.
have to like try to visually like really make a clear picture if I want to communicate. But I find that most often I will just say things out loud because that just gets me into alignment with what I want to communicate anyways. And so I don't have to be worrying about like, oh, they're not understanding my words um because I'm a super verbal person, and I love working with words and that just makes sense to me on an inherent level. Just being able to say something out loud to my animal, whether they're in person or at a distance, is a super easy way for me to feel confident that my message is getting across,
Mhm.
because I find that, um, if you're speaking the words of truth, like if you're not lying, obviously, which I wouldn't be doing, but if you're just speaking your truth, then that energy is going to carry forward to your animal, and you don't have to worry about whether or not your picture is clear.
Yeah, and the like you were talking about a little bit earlier too, even just the love that you have for your animal helps to I don't know, how would you describe that? Like the role that that feeling of love in your heart, I don't know, does that make you more trustworthy to the animal or what, how would you, do you think you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely gone on a big journey with that because my mare Farah, she is not a horse that really enjoys touch. She's
Mm.
quite sensitive in that way. And I think as humans, we're so tactile, like we just want to hold things with our hands. And so a big part of like learning, I think, to be in right relationship with our animals is understanding how they want to be loved.
Mm.
I think that's similar with humans, right? Like we all have our differences in terms of how we give and receive love, but I think in general, like that can be such a factor that is missed when it just comes to like honing your skills with animals. Like I don't remember ever growing up as a child hearing anybody say like, make sure to show your love for the animal in a way that makes sense for them, because I think sometimes the way that we want to express love is overwhelming, if that comes like from a place of like, oh, I want to wrap my arms around my
Mm.
horse's neck, or scratch them on the face. Like they might not like that, right? And so
Just like
that
how
can
some people don't like to be hugged. You know what I mean? Like some people love to hug people and other people are like, don't touch me.
exactly. So yeah, I think I've definitely had to learn um that, and it just comes with like the territory of developing your relationship with each animal as well, and seeing like um what what feels good for them, um and also too to understand that like if you're someone who feels like, I'll speak for myself. I felt for a long time like, oh, my horse doesn't want to be physically close to me. That must mean she doesn't love me. That was just my
Mm.
rudimentary, understanding of it. I think because, growing up watching shows like Heartland, or um, seeing people have like a really close like Liberty bond if they're like showing their skills off on social media, like that can make you feel like, oh, my horse doesn't want to be close to me. I'm doing something wrong. And I think like certain training, um, yeah, philosophies and just ways of thinking and people can reinforce that really easily if you're kind of
Mm.
finding yourself in the wrong setting. Um,
So just to know that it's okay that it doesn't have to look one particular way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And also too, like understanding that you're gonna kind of have to figure out that language between yourselves, and not try to compare, I think is really good.
That's a good point. Yeah. So let's go back to the where you got first introduced to animal communication, and now how many? So that was like 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So now you have a business where you are doing channeled pet poetry. what did the journey from just opening your mind to the concept of animal communication is real and it can be done from a distance? How did you get to where you are now, where this is actually your business? And is this, do you have, like, is this your sole business or do you do this and something else, or how does that look for you?
Yeah, yeah. So, I started this last December, very much
Oh,
on a whim.
very new. Okay.
Yeah. So it hasn't quite been a year. Um,
Wow.
and I think it just happened very organically. I love to write. I've always been a huge journaler, and it cracked me up before we started recording when you said that you never wanted to do a podcast, even though you had done like broadcast as a as
Yeah.
a degree, because I feel very similarly in the sense that um in high school, I had this English teacher who said, I think you should do, liberal arts or, English in university. And I said, I'm never ever doing that. No way. And I think that's just because I had to find my own way to like developing my relationship with my writing that felt really empowering and like not total like perfectionistic crisis. Because that was me. Um,
Mm,
and so, but I've always kept at it with the writing, and I had a really amazing opportunity in 2022. Um, I dropped out of university, and I that in the winter, like right before the new year. So I wasn't enrolled in anything for the winter semester. And then I had this opportunity, very serendipitously, to join this writing project. It was like a co-authored international book project where
mm,
the title of the book was Unlocking the Wisdom of Horses Within You. So that was the theme.
okay.
So it was very much along the veins of what are the teachings and the lessons that horses have brought forward in your life, and how do you want to bring that forward onto the page. And so I actually and it was a super free form project in the sense that you could really create whatever you wanted to. So one of the elements that I wove into my piece was this poem that I wrote. And I remember at the time we had a couple of months to get our first draft ready for the project, and we would meet on Zoom every 2 weeks. And it was so lovely because there was so much emphasis from the leader of the project on just trust the process, trust what wants to come through, don't put pressure on yourself, like the story will arrive. And I was anxious about it. I was like, I want to create something good.
Right.
Want to um use this opportunity to the fullest. And um there was this point early on in the project where I just remember hearing my horses say like something along the lines of, you can't mess this up, mom, so don't worry about it. And I wrote that down in my notes app. And then I sort of, for me, the way I write, whether it's with the animals or just personally, is that I will hear the words kind of start. I think of it as like a train that comes through the station of my brain, like that just like starts flowing and I can hear it. And so I'll start writing it. And then I kind of stop writing when the words stop flowing.
Mm,
So in that capacity, I would say it's very much like clairaudience is my sort of number one. Um,
okay. So you're actually hearing the words in your head, and then you're like, oh, I better write this down.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wrote that poem. And so I think honestly, that was probably my first um tangible experience of like channeled pet poetry, because I that the story that I wrote for that book was deeply connected to my journey with both my horses. And so they definitely like co-created that poem with me in that moment without me really thinking about it. Like this was just
Mm-hmm.
how it was coming through. Um, so yeah, kind of getting back to putting this out there as an offering, I was just inspired. I went for a walk and I live on a road where there are a lot of farm stands. And so there's a really nice farm stand at the end of the road where the woman sells her art prints. She's a painter, so she'll have like
Mm.
prints and canvases and bookmarks. And I saw that and it just like twinged in me of like, this is so cool. Like I appreciate this person so much for like putting herself out there and giving this like gift to the world of like, this is my art. You can look at it, you can buy it. I'm putting it out there. And I just sort of had this idea of like I could do that with my poetry. And how could I do that? Oh, with the animals. And so then I like
Mm.
made a whole thing on Canva that night and then I posted it the next day. Like it was really like
Wow.
bada bing, bada boom, like not overthinking it all, which is, I think, why it's felt so exciting for me because I have been that person of like, well, what am I gonna do? Like, because I have that entrepreneurial spirit.
Mm.
Um, so this was very organic, and I think that's why it's worked in a way.
Oh, that's so cool. So it
There
hasn't
was a
even been a
whole ton of
year.
stuff. No,
Dang. So you started, you said in December of last
yes,
year? Yeah, and so this podcast will be out in November. So yeah, it will just be just shy of a year for you. That's really
yeah,
cool. Coming up on
yeah.
your 1 year anniversary. So how did that look like as far as building the business, as far as getting the word out there, and like how many poems do you do a month, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think again, it's been something that I kind of have allowed to just exist in a way. So
Hmm.
um I mostly just use my Instagram account to kind of tell people about it and get the word out there. And then I think um, I've had lots of really lovely people who've commissioned poems who have then come back and done another one or like told a friend about it. And so it's just kind of like trickling out there by word of mouth. So it's definitely not like a full-time um, thing for me at this point. But I really enjoy it. So I am hoping that over time it can um grow, but
Yeah.
it's been something that's been more of a like passion project for me and something that I can offer to people. And I think that's been really supportive for me to just like allow it to sort of evolve and bloom
Yeah.
um, naturally.
Did you end up doing any animal communication classes before you started doing this? And how long, like, did it take before you believed that you could do it so you went from like, oh, wow, animal communication might be real and you could do it from a distance, to how did you get to the space now where you feel comfortable doing it for other people?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did take a class. So, I took a class through Lily Ludwig. Her Instagram is, I think it's Lil or Lily, Lil Ludwig Animal Intuitive on Instagram. So
Mm.
it's like it's pretty long. Um, but I don't think she's offering those classes anymore. But I had met her through a different online program and it was like, oh, I want to take her class whenever she's offering it again. So it was like a 6 week situation and a small class. I think we were less than 10 people, and we would meet once a week and just practice. And she would give a little bit of like an exercise. So kind of help you develop and see like what is your strongest clair. So like it would
Mm.
be maybe a meditation one day and then um a different visualization the next week. And so we would then um kind of pick one person's animal to work with. So that was kind of a cool part because like at least once in the whole class, your animal would be the subject of communication. So then you get
Mm.
messages from all your classmates and it was really cool. So I think at that point I was still a bit like I definitely believed in it, but I was nervous about my own abilities and especially to kind of voice them in front of classmates. Like that was vulnerable and you just want to feel like you're doing it and getting it and then you kind of get in your head about it. Um but it's it was after that, so that was in 2022 that I took
Mm.
that course in the spring. And then I think um that summer I had sort of my first like, oh, I think this is really happening. And
Really?
that was through my own animal. So I can tell that story if you want to hear
Yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because it's one of my favorites and it's so hilarious to me because um I think when you start down this road, you just do want that validation so much. So you're like, I just need, okay, I think this is a sign, but like I want a signier sign. And you're just like, you're looking for that certainty. But I think you have to at some point release that need for certainty because like nothing in life is
Mm.
certain.
Mm.
So I'll go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah,
Um,
we want to hear it.
at so it was very tragic at the end of 2020 right before Christmas. My family lost our cat. His name is Sootfoot, and he was hit by a car. It was very
Mm.
sudden and tragic, and like we were all bereaved. It was terrible. He was 10 years old, and we thought we had lots more time with him. Um, and so about 6 months later, a few weeks after I had finished up this course with Lily, I came down with COVID for the first time. And this was like, I was not happy about it. I went to a music festival and got COVID. So I was locked away in on the property where I grew up. My grandmother lived right next door and she had passed away in 2019 and her house was empty, like nobody was using it. So I did my quarantine for COVID in her house and had been in there for several days and was finally feeling like strength enough to go for a walk. Um, and my sister had asked me to do practice animal communication on her mare because her mare was having some training issues. So I said, okay, I think I'm strong enough. I'll go for a walk and I'll sit under a tree and I'll meditate with the horse, and that'll be nice. So I did that and I got up and sort of had written a few notes down and I thought, okay, that's my animal communication. It's done for the day. Kept walking, and oh, I'm missing a key part of the story, which is that right on the solstice in June, so I got sick with COVID in July, but right on the summer solstice in June, I found for the first time a four-leaf clover. I had never found one in my life. And I was excited. Oh man, this is so cool. And I kind of got this twinge of like, I think I'm gonna find another four-leaf clover. Like, I don't know why I had that thought, but then I found two more in the same afternoon. So suddenly all of these special clovers are propping up like all over the place. And I had thought, oh, I wonder what this is about. It's probably not a coincidence. And my grandmother used to sing this song that was like, I'm looking over a four-leaf clover that I've overlooked before. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's a sign from my granny, it's been a few years since she passed away. But I don't know why this would be coming up. But
Wow.
in the weeks following, I was finding four-leaf clovers every single day. I think I found like over
Wow.
20. And
Wow.
not even on my own property, but like I remember I met a friend in the park and there was one next to me on the blanket. I was playing in
Wow.
the park. So they were all over the place. And um so I had been spending this time in my grandmother's house and I went for this walk. This was probably 3 weeks later. had been assuming she was the one sending the clovers. And so, and then I hear this voice in my head while I'm on this walk, and it's my cat Sootfoot, and he says, "I'm the one sending the clovers." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, why? Um, why are you sending the clovers?" And he said, you guys are gonna get another cat soon. Like there's a new cat coming into your lives soon," was what he said. And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, what should I look out for?" Because I was thinking, my brain was like, is it going to be at the SPCA? Is it going to be on Facebook Marketplace? Like, where should I look out for this special cat? Thinking there was probably a certain cat that was meant to come into our lives. And he said, very vaguely, it will be unexpected, but it will make sense when it happens. And that's all I got. And I felt very clearly like this had come through and I was all by myself. And I thought, I'm not telling anybody about
Okay.
this encounter because I know how much this cat meant to everyone in my family. And I know how much like emotion is going to be involved with welcoming a possible new cat into our family and the excitement, and if it's coming from Sootfoot and all this stuff. So I'm not gonna mention this at all, but I was excited. I had that like flicker inside of me of like something cool just happened, and now let's see what happens. So then I think it was about a week later, the phone rings, the landline rings. And I was in the house. So I love answering the phone. I rushed up and I grabbed it off the receiver. And it was my neighbor. It was a farmer down the road. And she said, "Hey, I wanted to invite you guys to my mom's birthday barbecue. It's happening on Saturday. And by the way, do you know anybody looking for free kittens?" And I like jumped out of my skin because this was the person that we had got Sootfoot from.
Oh, wow.
So she was saying, I have these kittens. So I was like, oh my gosh. So then I hung up the phone and I was like shrieking. And I said to my sister, "You'll never guess what just happened." And I told her the whole backstory. And so then we were very excited about these new cats from from my neighbor because again, it was completely unexpected to get this phone call, but it made complete sense that we would be getting cats from the same place that we had gotten our former cat. And so then from there, um, we met the kittens and we ended up getting two of them. And on the night that my family had gone to like visit the cats, I was working. So then I got home from work and I went to go see my horses and say goodnight to them. And on the other side of the fence, I had to like walk over this small electric fence that had been set up. And I saw a four-leaf clover growing. I was like, oh, yay, this must mean it's a sign. We're gonna get this cat. And we had been debating whether to get one or two. But I kid you not, there was two four-leaf clovers growing side by side in this plant. And so we was like, yes, it's meant to be. We're gonna get these two cats. And it was a really cool experience.
Oh, that's cool. Is that the cat you have now, or is that a different cat?
No, no,
Oh,
those
different cat.
cats were back home.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, that's so cool. So then did
Yeah.
that just start to give you like, what's the word I'm thinking of? Some confidence in your ability to start to do this?
Yeah, I would say for sure. And just to realize like the different kind of like that connection between the spirit world and
Mm.
the real like the physical world, I would say. Um so yeah, I do really enjoy working with pets that have transitioned. I think that's
Mm.
something that I feel like I have a good handle on, especially through my cat. Sootfoot
Mm.
is like a
Mhm.
nice guide for me,
Mhm.
and yeah, I feel from that experience in particular, like quite grounded or like confident in the fact that like we can receive messages from animals that are no longer in their physical.
Yeah. So what's your so I do want to share some of the poems that you did for me.
Yeah.
What's your process? Do you want to talk about that first before we dive into the
Yeah.
poems?
Yeah. My process is very fluid, I would say. So like you know, uh if anybody is signing up for a poem, I just ask that they fill out an intake form, just so I can get the animal's name and get your info, and find out, are they living or have they transitioned? And then most of the questions on the intake form are optional so that people can feel free to share what they want to, um, but there's sort of nothing that's mandatory. And I like it that way because it gives a lot of like creative room to um, meet the person and the animal like where they are at. So I have some people who will like to put quite a bit of information, and then others who will put barely any information. And so each poem is a different experience in that way. Um, and I will say that sometimes, I'll always check the intake form right away when I get it, because that's how I get, your contact information. So I can send you an invoice and like the information about next steps. Um, but sometimes I'll just do that first cursory look of the intake form, and then I actually don't need to go back to it while I'm writing the poem because the animal's message or energy is so like forthcoming that I hear those words and I go and I don't take in any more um info
And
in that way. And
do
then
they
some
like do you sit down and say, "Oh, I'm going to write a poem," or do you feel like, "Oh, I need to go write the poem now," or do you do it while you're walking, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I do try to be have like good boundaries around that where like
Mm,
usually I will make sure that I am in a place to um actually sit down and write before I look at the photos of the animal. So
okay.
after you send the intake form, I ask you to send photos, and then usually I won't even open that like photo email until I feel like I could sit down and write, because oftentimes I will look at the photo and then, that'll be the moment. I'm like, okay.
Okay. That's cool.
So, yeah. And I will sometimes get like little flickers because, yeah, I'll get little flickers in my mind of ideas, but I try not to kind of like open the gate to the animals until I'm actually ready, because I want things to be like quite clear, and I don't want to kind of, um, yeah, be like draining my energy with like
Mm,
focusing on the animals, if it's not like dedicated writing time, because I just
mm,
want to be like precise about that. Um, but yeah, so that's a bit of my process. And when I first did my first one in January was the first commission that I completed. Um, I've always been a writer, like I said, but for the pet poems, I will actually use the dictate function on my
mm.
computer. So all of the poems are spoken out of my mouth. I don't actually write them down by
Oh,
hand.
interesting. Okay.
So I'll do that channeling process out loud. And I find that that also kind of helps keep it very much like my brain is not involved, if you know what I mean.
Hmm. And are you looking at the photo and dictating it kind of at the same time then?
Yeah, I'll usually have the photo like kind of in the background, and then
Mm,
I just have the Word document open kind of over top of the photo. And then I might like pause and look at it again. But
mm. Okay.
um, and then I'm always, before I start every poem, like I check in with the pet. I have like a little um crystal pendulum that I use and make sure that I have like permission to work with the animal, that they're ready, that they're consenting. I always ask if they have any questions. So far, all the animals I've worked with have just been, I like, are you ready to write? And they're like, yes, no question. So I think it's something that animals really enjoy participating in.
That's really special. Do you end up doing any editing per the poetry piece, or does it just come out the way it comes out?
Yeah, so it usually comes out the way it comes out, and then I work with the animal um for any like edits. And I think one thing I really like about the dictate function is because I'm not precisely typing the keys. Sometimes the words or like the capitalization, it'll be like a little bit funky. Or
Mm,
like something I thought I said one word and another word is what appears on the screen. So
mm,
I kind of like that element to it as well, because I think sometimes, in my experience, anyways, technology can be sort of in on the process. I don't know if you've ever tried to like phone somebody, for example, and like your phone just like won't work, or you're trying to say something in a Zoom call and then your video and your mic freezes. Like
yeah.
sometimes it's like not, that's just not what actually wants to come through. And
Mm.
so I find doing it through the dictate function inadvertently is sort of part of that like surrendering process. Yeah.
So I had you do three poems, and I'm gonna I'm gonna pull them up one at a time, I think. And do you want to read the poem since you wrote it, or do you want me to read it? Do you
Um,
have a preference?
I don't have a preference, honestly. Um,
Can you see that now?
I can. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, and so that's the other thing that Elsie does is she takes the photo and then she superimposes the poetry over the photo, and it's really special. And I know I sent you, I think you had asked for three photos per animal, and
Yes.
then she ultimately decided which photo to use to with the poetry, and they are all just perfect. Anyway, so sorry, did you want to read the poem or did you want me to read the poem? Because I don't,
I'm happy to read it, but I would also love to have you read it if you feel called to. So you let me know.
you read this one. How about that? And then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah, and then the animal always helps me choose the photo as well.
Okay.
So there's that aspect. Okay, this one was for Chi. This was the first one I wrote for you, for your gang.
Mm-hmm.
Man's best friend, a teacher of patience, and then of how to connect without words, ready to weave worlds you didn't know existed, until my lightness found your darkness, and together we learned to splash through the waves of what got to happen next. I'm never far, so call on me. Chi, the energy that is forever flowing through our story. A spot of yellow, a spot of brightness. A boy who made a family out of two strangers. A wise dog who left when his job was done, who loved you unconditionally through all the change that was yet to come.
Oh, just gives me tears up my eyes.
Oh, yes, I
Sorry.
will definitely feel teary as well when I'm writing these. It's kind of funny. That's one of my ways that I'm like, oh yeah, I know I'm connecting with the animal because the emotion is just overtaking me.
Right? Yeah. So that this dog was my boyfriend's dog at the time, and but he became like our dog. And so then you wrote well, things that kind of jumped out at me. It was interesting because you said until my light found your darkness, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting too in the photo because the picture is with my dog, and basically these two dogs brought me and my boyfriend together at the time, and then you had written in there, yeah, a boy who made a family out of two strangers, and I was like, what did I tell her in the intake form? I was like, did I tell her that? I don't even remember. And I don't think I didn't tell you much detail really when I look back at the intake form. I mean, I was pretty vague. Um, but this dog so loved the water. I mean, like that was his happy space, which is why I sent this picture, even though my dog Gabriel is in the picture with him. Um, it was just the perfect picture that you picked that one to use. Do you have any other comments about the poem itself or anything that you want to say before I go to the next one?
Um, yeah, I think just like speaking to your point about the intake form, I did definitely look at the intake form for all your poems, and so I think it's funny that you brought that up because like even that line that you said, a boy who made a family out of two strangers, like
Hmm.
there was sort of I could kind of pick up on that energy through the details you had included in the intake form, but again, I it was quite vague, and so there's a lot of like trust I have to put in the words that the animals bring forward to me, where I'm like, I'm not
Mm.
going to overthink this, and like that's going to land how it lands, and even if it's not 100% like factually correct, it is what the animal wants to say, and like I don't know all the facts, so this is what if that's what the animal's saying, that's what I'm gonna put down and trust that it resonates. So it is like there's a definitely lots of vulnerability, I think, in this process of just trusting the words and because I take it, I really want to bring forward something that's gonna resonate for both the animals and the people, but I think yeah, the animals are always asking me to just like, that's the word they use, that's the word they use. And I just have to put it out there and say, well, there's a reason this came through. Yeah.
Yeah, I know I love that. And then you're like, oh, I hope this resonates with the person that's reading it. Well, this definitely did. It's really beautiful. Okay, the next one was Gabriel. Oh, I'm trying to see. Okay, I'm gonna read this one, okay?
Okay. Yes.
Okay, I guess I'll read it first and then we can talk about him.
Okay.
Um, there's there comes a time when all angels are called back into their heavenly form. I know you feel like my rock had barely skipped across the water before it sunk into the deep and beyond your finger's reach. What I want you to consider is how lightly my paws skimmed across the beach, as if part of me had wings all along. It is in the quiet space after sunset or before dawn that I come to visit you again, just to check that the protection I was sent to give you has stuck. You've done me proud, but still I watch. I'm gonna cry. For what else is an angel to do but guard his beloved even after his heart stops? Oh, sorry.
Aw. Yeah, it feels
This,
different when you read it out loud too, eh?
yeah, this dog was so special because it's so interesting. 'Cause, again, I don't remember what I wrote on the intake form exactly, but when I got this dog, I actually was going through a really scary time in my life because I had actually gotten a stalker. And I don't think I told you that part. And I had gotten the stalker who, because I had to change like everything about my life, it was really a scary time. But one thing that was recommended to me is that I get a dog, like, get a dog. So I researched breeds of dogs and I decide I want to get a Cane Corso. They're supposed to be naturally protective without having to be like trained to be a protection dog. And this dog, it came into my life. It was one of those kind of things where I was like, I went to see him. I didn't know I was actually going to come home with a dog. And the other funny story is when I went to go see this dog, there were two puppies left in this litter. And one of the dogs was a female, and they were calling her Xena, which was what my mare's name is. So I was intrigued. I wanted to go see this dog named Xena. But I didn't come home with that one. I came home with the other one, and I don't remember what they were calling him, but as a new dog owner would, I was trying to figure out what his name should be.
Yeah.
And like my cousin and other people were giving me all these ideas for names and all these kind of like, Hercules or big, tough dog names, right? And then one day it just hit me. I was like Gabriel. Gabriel, because Gabriel is an angel. And that's really what just struck me as like, no, I want to call him Gabriel because Gabriel's an angel and he's like my angel. And then we called him Gabe, of course, but he did die very young. He got cancer and he only made it to 4 years old. So it was very yeah, it's very emotional because I didn't have him for very long and he is just a special part of my life. And you really touched on all of those pieces in the way that you worded this poem, or he did, because I guess he wrote it with you, you guys together. Um, and he has come to visit me. I mean, not lately, but after he passed away, I would have these dreams about him actually, where
No
I
way.
felt like I would wake up from the dream and I would feel like I had actually just been with him. And
Wow.
it was so real that it would actually make me cry because I felt like I was just with him.
Yeah.
And there was actually even another time in where we had actually moved to another house, but I smelled him. Like he has a very distinct kind of a musky odor. It wasn't a bad odor. It was just a very distinct odor. And one day I smelled him. Like, and we didn't even have any of his things anymore around the house. So I was like kind of one of those things like, wow, I think he's here with me right now.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, those are just some of my thoughts. Do you have anything you want to add about his poem or?
Well, that's I just love hearing that little bit of story about like when he would come to visit you, because I mean, if you were asleep, that would be after sunset or before dawn. So that's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's so really cool for me to hear. And um yeah, I think when I went about creating this poem, like definitely that connotation of his name like stood out for me. So I knew that word angel would really come into play. And um
Mm.
even looking at that photo, like so those are kind of like the elements that I weave in, right? Like, because here in this picture, you can kind of see um, I'm assuming it's probably sunset in this photo.
Yeah,
Um,
it is actually.
so
Mhm.
yeah, um,
And it's so funny as I was looking through pictures to pick of him, and I have so many pictures where he just looks like a tough dog, like an intimidating tough dog. And I chose this one because it really, I mean, I know I sent you a couple other pictures of him too, but I really love this one because it just showed his softness.
for sure.
Man, that was hard for me to read that.
You
In
did
all
great.
the in all the best ways. It was just oh, okay. So this is the third one. I'm gonna let you read this one just since I had such a hard time with the other one.
For sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. All right, this is from Vino. You saw me for who I am, thirsting for a chance to live beyond the world I knew. And together, from that very first day, we built a bridge to a time none of us saw coming. Our journey was one of figuring it out and learning to laugh along the way, feeling the wind in our hair, even as the world felt like it was running astray. I became a better dog through your love, because with you, I no longer had to prove my worth. And so I leave you with these final lines. It is hope that turns water into wine, trust that gives rise to the divine, and bold faith that makes even the toughest road feel like an incredible climb. We rose through ashes, and I know you felt the burn, but I want you to remember my strength, your strength, when you release me from the urn.
Ugh. He's also, God, such a special dog. He came into our lives right before the shutdown for COVID. I think I did mention that to you.
Mhm.
We actually drove to Colorado to pick him up, and he was a stud dog. I mean, he's got a lot of offspring in this world. And it's interesting because yeah, when you look at his picture, I mean, he looks so intimidating, right? And he's such a love, a lot like Gabriel. In fact, him and Gabriel had so many similarities that oftentimes I wondered if he was Gabriel come back to me.
Oh,
But I don't think that he necessarily is, or I don't really even know how that all works, but he was our rock really through COVID the whole COVID debacle of the whole world just turning itself inside out. And getting
yeah.
this dog was just really helped us get through that. And that's what he's like. We're kind of learning to figure it out along the way. Um, when you wrote "Feeling the wind in our hair," what really captured me about that particular line was one of his most favorite things was to go on the ferry and to put his head out of the window and just to feel. And I almost sent you that picture, but I didn't send you that picture of him. I don't think I did. Uh,
No,
Anyway, so that when I read that, I was like, oh wow, because he loved that. Like he just loved taking the ferry rides. Um, and he didn't have to prove his worth anymore with us. Like he was no longer being valued because of his genetics. Like he was just valued because of who he was, and he was freaking spectacular. He was a spectacular dog. Um, and we actually navigated a lot of hard things with him. He ended up he ended up getting cancer too. So both of my Connie Corsos ended up having cancer. And just navigating those last, I don't know, I guess the last year of his life was really challenging in a lot of ways. But always just the depth of the love that we had for this dog just carried us through. Yeah, and then you started it with him thirsting for a chance to live beyond the world that he knew, and that was, I mean, he had a good life, but it was a very limited life in a kennel. He was on a big property in Colorado, but it was a kennel type situation with multiple dogs. I mean, when I say kennel type situation, I mean like their kennel was like a barn for our horses. Like you walked in and it was like a whole facility, right? But it was
wow.
such a beautiful yeah, experience for him. And kudos to his breeder really that she does adopt these dogs out to have an actual life once their breeding life is you know closing or whatever. And I got to tell you another little story about him.
I'd love to
His
hear it.
his breeder, I had been following her before I even got my first Cane Corso, Gabriel. I had found her online. It's called Castle Guard Connie Corsos, and I had looked at her thing, and it was kind of back in the day where it's like, oh, I'll never be able to afford one of her dogs. They're so beautiful, but like, that's just not happening. And when I actually got Gabriel, I'm an artist too, and I actually did a portrait of Gabriel, which was like a partial payment for him when I bought him, is that I traded
Wow.
artwork for him. In Vino's case, I had talked with the breeder on the phone a few years before we got him because I was just trying to dream and plan for like, I need a dog that like I train horses and I want a dog that like he isn't going to be getting into trouble while I'm trying to do stuff with the horses and that he'll just lay quiet and
Yeah.
be with me as a guardian, but like not be something I was needing to worry about. And she goes, "Oh, you need a Vino or a King baby." And those were two of her stud dogs at the time. And so I started following Vino at that point, like just with a special interest because, oh, maybe someday I'm gonna get a Vino puppy or King is the other stud she had. And then randomly, as things happen, she had posted a thing on Facebook saying that she was looking for a forever retirement home for Vino. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like,
Yay.
why get a Vino baby if I could just get Vino himself? And then I called her like immediately, and we chatted. And then next thing you know, we drove to Colorado and we came home with him. And there was no guarantee. She did not guarantee that we were going to come home with him. It was like, you come and meet him and we'll see. And then if I feel like you're a good match for him, I'll let
Yeah.
him go home with you. And he came home with us. And it was he's just such a stunning, fabulous dog. And in fact, honestly, he's actually been one of my biggest guides in all of my animal communication stuff that I've done. He is the one that often shows up and is there with me and kind of guides me along the way. And so, anyway, very special. Do you have anything else you want to comment about his poem?
Um, no, honestly, it was really lovely to work with him, and I think that knowing that this was like the dog that you had had most recently, like I definitely could feel that um like it was a different kind of connection that was shared
Mm.
with this. Like it felt like one that was very personal to you, I would say.
Just yeah, and still he's in my mind all the time still, all
Yeah.
the time. So, yeah, that's a lot. I wanted to share that. The reason I love to bring in this personal stuff when I can, because I feel like it really helps people to connect with what's possible or, what it is that you are able to bring forward. In like in Vino's case, if in my very second podcast interview was with Tracy Rainwaters. She was actually the very first communicator I ever did a course with. It was like a online Zoom class to learn how to communicate with animals. And she had done a connection with him it was shortly after he had passed, actually. And so when I interviewed her, it was really cool because I could bring in like the depth of some of that conversation
Yeah.
and I wanted to be able to do the same thing here with you, which is actually why I was like, I'm going to have her do poems because I want to be able to talk about these, in like have an actual real experience with you and what it is that your gift is to offer to the world. And obviously, I was in tears and I was crying. And it is very touching and it is almost harder when you read it out loud. I mean, I don't know what it is about saying the words out loud.
Yeah.
Um, but it's very special and what you're bringing to the world is it's such a unique gift. I mean, I don't know how many other people do what you do, but I'd never heard of it before. Had you heard of anybody doing this or did it just
I
come to
don't
you?
think I've heard of anybody else doing it. I mean, anything is possible, but
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. It's just
this is
or
definitely, I think, a real mixture of two things I love, which is writing poetry and animals. And I think because I already feel very much like my best writing kind of comes through me versus that it's like being generated. It just sort of,
yeah.
when I'm in that flow state, it really is that literal flow state of the words just coming through me. And so um, I think kind of having that already be my natural writing style really lended itself well to kind of opening up that space for the animals to join me.
And it's beautiful. And like you said, they seem eager to be a participant
Yeah.
in it. And it's just, yeah, like a treasured little memento that you can keep and
Mhm.
really even like when you read that poem, it helps kind of bring them back
Mm.
to life in a sense, because then it brings their energy and their presence back into your world. I love it. I do a lot of portraits drawing for people. Horses and dogs primarily that are typically alive, but oftentimes I will get asked to do a portrait of an animal that has passed. And I feel the same thing with that type of work is that it's like this kind of living remembrance of their essence and their spirit. And I think it's just so special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like I mentioned to you at one point, you know, each time you go back to that poem, like something new might jump out at you
Mm,
or like connect with
right.
you. And like I think that's something that I really enjoy about it is how poetry is so subjective. So even if I felt like a certain energy as I was writing it,
Mm,
something else might stand out more to you. And like, so there is sort of no right way to like receive the messages, I think. It's so much
mm,
more like artistic in that way that because I think animal communication is so open to interpretation. You know, you have the person giving you the message, like if you're in a reading, and then the client receiving it, and it can feel like two different things. And it is that co-creative process between the communicator and the recipient. And so I think that poetry itself as a medium is really conducive to that process of just like interpretation. And I like that it's something that you can come back to and be like, oh, like that didn't even click for me the first time, but now X amount of time has passed and suddenly I'm seeing it in a new light. So it can kind of grow with you.
yeah, and I think that's what art is all about is being able to kind of yeah be met with at where you are at any particular moment, and then yeah, like you said, the what you get out of it or the meaning might shift, but that's the beauty of it too. It's
Yeah.
so cool. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add that I didn't ask you?
Um, Honestly, no. I mean, we talked about dogs today with the poems, but I work with horses and cats and um those are the animals I've worked with so far, but I would be open to
To
different
any kind?
animals.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Um, yeah, there I can think of a few other people that might want to have other types of animals. Have a poem. The question I usually ask everyone at the end of the podcast is, if there was one thing that you would recommend the listeners do to help create a more magical connection with their pets, horses, dogs, whatever, what would you recommend that they do?
Hmm. I would say to hmm, what would I say to that? There's so many cool things. I mean, I'm just gonna think about my cat, for example, who is here with me because I have just loved getting to know him. I adopted him last year. And something that's been a really magical way to connect deeper with him is to actually seek out new experiences together. So
Mm,
I tried, he's an indoor cat, but I tried walking him on the leash and he loves it. And so now we go out for walks every day,
okay.
as long as the weather is good. And I'm someone who loves to travel and find new places, discover new places. And so I decided to try bringing him on one of my little trips, to another part of the province here in BC, and he loved it. So, just
Well, that's
you know,
fun.
yeah, I'd say that's brought like a lot of magic into our connection. Is just to try new experiences with your animal and do it from like a really open place of like discovery of like, oh, I wonder if my animal will like this. Because I tried seeing if he would enjoy going into like a pet backpack, but that's not something that he really has taken to. Like I did it very casually with like positive reinforcement, no forcing, but I can just tell he doesn't really love being in that closed space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was magical in and of itself because it gave me a chance to laugh and get to know him better and kind of work through um, challenges and a different experience and anything that you can do like as an activity with your pet, I think is like a really cool way to bring magic into your connection. I think like online there's been more and more people who will post videos doing stuff with their pets where it's like kind of with that energy of like it's their first experience living with you too. I mean, I'm all about reincarnation, so I'm not going to say that's like 100% true, but kind of that energy of like this little animal is like here on Earth, like living with you. It's not just about them being your pet, but it's also about like um how are you a part of their life and like what can you create
Mm.
together?
I love that. That is so pretty. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for that share. So, how do people find you if they want to connect with
Yeah.
you? And I will put it in the show notes as well, but go ahead and just let people know.
Perfect. So people can connect with me on my Instagram account. It is at far out underscore and underscore about. So at far out and about. My mare's name is Farah, but her registered name is far out. So that's where that came from. Um,
Got it. Cool.
and if you want to request a poem, the intake form is in my Instagram bio. So you can just fill that out and then I will get in touch with you like that. And right now I'm working on, I have a recorded workshop that is all about like introducing people to the concept of connecting with their animals through writing and through poetry. So
Oh, I
I
love
had
it.
to clear some storage space on my computer to be able to edit that because it's a long one. But I'm hoping to have that up. So if I have a link for that, I'll send it to you, Jordan, so you can include it.
Yeah, I'd love that. And in fact, that is intriguing to me. I might have to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you. This has been such a cool conversation. I didn't know exactly where it was going to go, and it was beautiful. And I'm glad we could end with the beautiful poetry and the art, really. So,
Yeah. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you for showcasing that. That means a lot to me.
Absolutely adored this conversation with Elsie. What a special gift she has, and I do hope that you will check out her Instagram and reach out to her if you are interested in having her co-create a beautiful poem with one of your pets. Thank you. Thank you for being here and listening to My Magical Horse, the podcast. We are so grateful to have you as a listener. If you would love to dive into the My Magical Horse community and go a little deeper with us, we'd love to have you. Head on over to our Patreon page, which is www.patreon.com/mymagicalhorse, and join as a free fan or a Phoenix Rising tier member. We would love to have you. We have so many amazing things in store for this community, including a monthly call that you can join us on Zoom and chat about animal communication and ask your questions. Your questions could end up on a future episode. If you're interested in learning about ways that you can incorporate animal communication into what you're doing with your horses just in your daily activities and training techniques, that's what we're all about at My Magical Horse. So be sure to join us there. We would love to have you. Until next time, namaste, friends.